everybody. My name is Jenna Swano, and I am coming to you from Bitesized EdTech, brought to you by Learning Curve. Today, we're going to be chatting about Adobe Spark in your intermediate phase maths classroom. Now, Adobe Spark is a free-to-use tool. It actually consists of 3 different tools, all of which are free to use. In today's lesson, we're going to be using 2 of them, Adobe Spark Post and Adobe Spark Video, and we're going to be tackling the topic of 2D shapes. So let's have a look at what CAPS requires from us.
Here we have the CAPS document for the intermediate phase, specifically looking at 2D shapes, and this is what our lesson series is going to tackle. The first of our lesson series will be in Adobe Spark Post, and that's going to focus on recognizing 2D shapes in photographs, which is an example of recognizing 2D shapes in the environment. Depending on which grade you are in, you're going to have different sets of 2D shapes that you're looking at. And of course, this can be tailored to your specific grade. In the second lesson, we're going to be looking at an Adobe Spark video. And in these lessons, we're looking at the characteristics of shapes. Students will be creating a video where they describe the different characteristics of the shapes. Right, here I am in spark.adobe.com, and I've signed in, and this is where I'm going to start my lesson today. If you are unfamiliar with the Adobe Spark apps, please feel free to check out the link in the description below, and you'll be able to find a video or a couple of video tutorials that'll help you get started. Right, my first lesson requires students to find shapes in photographs. So I want to do this in Adobe Spark Post. I'm going to start out by going to this little plus button over here, choosing a custom size graphic, going with a social post and particularly YouTube dimensions over here. And this is going to help give me an image that is the correct size for my video that I'm going to be creating later on. Now, I want to start with a photograph. Of course, you could choose a photograph that you've uploaded yourself. You could give your students a photograph. You could ask them to take their own photographs. I'm going to choose a free photograph here in the search box. So I'm looking for a photograph of a street, a nice photograph of a street. And particularly, I'm going to choose this one over here, even though it is portrait. Right, I'm going to resize this so that it fills my entire screen, and I'm going to keep going with the resizing, and you'll see that I'm focusing in on one particular area of this image. So I'm just going to keep resizing. There we go, until it fills my page. Right, I'm going to start by just scrolling down a little bit, and I'm focusing up here on some quadrilaterals, sorry. So before I forget, let me just rename this to quadrilaterals. Right. Now, I want to identify the different quadrilaterals in the shape, and I'm going to start with rectangles. So over I go to my icons tab, and I'm going to choose rectangle. And there are a bunch of different options that will come up. I'm going to choose this one over here. It's a nice portrait rectangle. I'm going to put it over the first window that I want to highlight, and I'm going to just move that shape over it over there. Now, I don't particularly like this color, so I can change it if I want to. I'm going to click on that color option over there. You'll see that there is a color palette that is selected. I don't actually like that color palette as a whole, so I'm going to go over to colors and choose one of the bold colors over here. Let's go with yellow. Right. Now, I've actually done this image already, so I'm going to switch over to that tab. Right, and here I have the finished image. Of course, if you couldn't find some of the shapes that you needed, or it was an irregular shape, you could always search for line and use that to move around and manipulate to create new shapes. Once I'm finished creating my image, I'm going to go to download, and I'm going to download it as a PNG. For my second lesson, I'm going to start off in the home screen, and I want to create a video, so I'm choosing the slideshow option. I'm going to call it 2D shapes, and I'm going to select the make my own template. That just gives me a lot of freedom. Once the video screen editor has loaded, I'm going to choose over here to add a title to my video. So I'm going to call it 2D Shapes by Jenna Swano. And of course, your students could add their own name in there or give it their own title. You can also choose to add a background image to the slide if you'd like. But I'm not going to do that now. Instead, I'm going to click the plus button over here and I'm going to choose to add a photo. So I want to upload that photo from my downloads. And I'm going to choose one that I created earlier that highlights circles in that image. Now, as my student might do, they might record something over here to describe what is happening in their image. And this would be dependent on the grade as to how much detail they would need to go into in their recording. It might just be as simple as, in this image, you can see 4 circles are highlighted. The bicycle tires are the bigger circles, and the circles in the handrail are smaller. They might then choose to add a new slide, call it polygons, and record a short description of what makes a polygon a polygon. They could then add a new slide, another image, and maybe they're going to add their quadrilaterals. For the quadrilaterals image, there's a lot going on, so they could record something like, in this image, you can see a number of quadrilaterals. Quadrilaterals are called that because they have 4 sides. Think of something like a quad bike, which has 4 wheels. There are 3 different types of quadrilaterals here. The yellow ones are rectangles, the red ones are diamonds, and the green ones is a trapezium. Of course, I made an error there towards the end, but the beautiful thing about Adobe Spark Video is that you can actually just click on that record button again, and you can re-record over what you've already done. Once the student has finished all of their slides with the different shapes, they can go to download, and that will download their video as an MP4 file, which they can export then to Google Classroom or send to you via AirDrop if they're using an iPad. I hope that you've enjoyed this short lesson tutorial and that you will give it a try in your classrooms. Please let us know how it goes in the comments below. If you're looking for any links on how to use some of these Adobe Spark apps, please check out the description. Otherwise, I hope that you all have a fabulous school year. Thanks for joining.